Hey all, Brad here with another quick video. Today on the bench we've got some Sinistar boards. Good customer of mine, John, had sent in Sinistar ROM board, an I/O board, and then a sound and speech board that was actually from a pinball that he wanted rebuilt and converted over for Sinistar. He has a set of Sinistar boards in his game. He kind of wanted a backup, and he also wanted us to upgrade both the soundboard ROM and the game ROMs with the latest ones that SynaMax put together with all the extra features. We'll go over those, and the soundboard that has all the ability to execute a self-test, both for the onboard sounds as well as the speech. So I will switch over to the bench cam and we'll go over the hardware, what it looks like, what we did, and then we'll do a little bit of testing and gameplay and wrap the video up. So let me switch over to the bench cam here. So you can see there is the um, soundboard, and we'll go over that last actually. So here's the ROM board, and again, this was pretty rough shape. Um, Stripped off all the components on it, the special chips, all the EPROMs, ribbon cable came off, all the Molex headers, electrolytic caps here came off. Uh, Took the labels off, got a bath with Simple Green, put all new Molex headers, new caps, new ribbon cable back on it, cleaned and straightened the legs on the special chips, reapplied the label here to the PIA, which actually that's a new PIA. The one was bad, and and then we took all the original EPROMs that were on here with the original version, and I fortunately they didn't have original labels. Someone had redone them, so I took all the labels off. We cleaned all the under these labels. There's a little sapphire lens, if you will, a window that allows you to erase the EPROMs with UV light. I think it's in the 650 nanometer wavelength. Any case, a couple of the EPROMs had busted legs on them and things like that, so I had to replace a few of them. But we erased the ones that we could and reprogrammed them with the latest set of code from SynaMax, which again has got some really cool new features. And then when I got it on the bench, we did find some other problems. We had a 7432 that was bad over here, and a 74LS139 that was bad, and then again the PIA was acting up. And then also the little display here, the LED display, the top segment was burned out on it, so I replaced that as well. So that's on the ROM board. Back here on the I/O board, no big smoking guns here, but we stripped it down, cleaned it. It's got a new Nichicon filter cap here, new ribbon cable, and a new 15-pin Molex header with the square pins. So that was that. And then back on the soundboard here, again, this was originally out of a pinball game, so it had a 2K 2716 EEPROM, was pretty rough. So it got stripped down, simple greened both the sound and the speech board, and then all new electrolytics put on here, pulled the fuses, cleaned them. We tighten up the little friction grip here that holds the fuses so they snap in really, you got to put a lot of pressure to get them in. And there's a lot of pressure maintaining a good connection there. And then new bridge rectifier. We've got all new Molex headers here. These little yellow guys here are tantalum capacitors for decoupling, uh, where I replaced, they were originally aluminum electrolytics. I also take the crystal, and it was kind of up high moving around, so we got that down flush on the board. And then of course some jumpering has to change to support a 2532 4K EEPROM that's used. And then this is the new EEPROM with the reproduction label on it. Sorry about my film work here. I'm holding the camera by hand, but that has the code in it that we're going to show you right now. That does the full test. So normally on these boards, all of these System 6, 7 boards have a little momentary push button on them that was ideally could be the programmer, whoever's writing the code that runs in the EEPROM here, could use that, both of these two dip switches here and the momentary button to do whatever they want, right? Programmatically. Those are just inputs to the PIA that get passed to the processor here on board. Um, and they can do whatever they want. So on many of the games in the pinball, depending on these dip switches, you can set to do different functions, and the momentary switches typically are used for testing. A few of the arcade games, like Sinistar, that wasn't properly implemented in code, and the button does absolutely nothing. So one of the things when SynaMax and I were working on some upgrades was, hey, can we get that sound check to work? And he did. And originally, just like the original, like Robotron and Joust and Defender, it was just testing the sounds on the main board coming out of the digital to analog converter. And I said, hey, it would really be great if we could also test the speech. So he was able to work his magic and call out every single speech on the speech board, so we get to hear those. So let me activate um, the audio input here. And again, I'm streaming this directly from the sound through a DI box that I have, so I'm sampling it digitally. So let me hit the button here on the board. There goes.
I am Sinistar. Coward, run, live, hunger, beware.
And then it just loops around. So that's all the sounds on there. So let me, and then also I'll show you here, I do, as I mentioned in other videos, I return all of the old parts of the customers. This kind of comes out of habit. I used to work at a dealership, 35 years ago when I was going to school. And that was kind of like, if you change parts on a car, you return the old ones to the customer. It was a law. So I still do that. I think people like to see all the parts that got changed, and, it's just interesting, I think. So they go back, unless there's some customers that I do a ton of work for, and they just like, hey, don't send me the parts, I don't want to deal with those. So customers that I work with quite a bit, I just throw them away. So let's switch over here. Again, I'll put the camera up, we'll boot the game, and I'll go over some of the new features in the software that SynaMax has modified. So let me just switch over here. So there is, you're just seeing some remnants on my capture card here from the last time I booted the game. So again, I've got a little remote control on the bench. I'm going to power it up. And there's the rug carpet pattern testing the RAM. And then I'm going to get my little PlayStation controller here. And let me go over, so if you watch here, we're going to see the first feature that's added is the Sinistar blood dripping AMOA logo. There it is. So that was removed from the regular game, and he restored it. And you'll see here on the track screen up at the very top, you've got those little 3 crosses that are flashing. Those are the same effects that Defender uses, where you toggle those colors like that. So that's pretty unique. And so the big thing you'll see here, even on the attract mode that he was able to implement, is the jet plume there on the craft, the spaceship. The plume doesn't exist anywhere. It was in the original code, and we believe they took it out. There just wasn't room on the ROMs, physical space, if you will, to store all the code, including all the diagnostics. So what Max was able to do was remove some of the diagnostic tests that I think are redundant, like some of the stuff for the monitor test patterns. Most people nowadays, if you're working on your monitor, you have one of these little $70 TPG test pattern generators that actually do more than what these games gave you. And some of the other tests that aren't super important, we pulled out as well, just to make space for all these features that were added back. So let me go over, I had a list here. So we had the dripping blood, the AMOA logo, the jet exhaust plume. In the code, apparently it was called the tail flame. And it will actually, the size of that plume, if you will change proportionally to how much thrust you have on the joystick. So on these 49-way sticks, there's actually 3 positions. So it's kind of like a, small, medium, large, if you will. So that jet plume will be proportional. So it's kind of neat. He also added back to the code that was originally in there. It was pulled out. So to get an extra ship, what everybody's used to running that was kind of released in production was 30K, and it's now 5K. So that makes the gameplay a little more smooth and easier to gain ships. You saw the color cycling effect at the top there. The crystal shield, there's some HUD icons that come up with that little heads-up display at the top there. And there's some more messages: Crystal Shield annihilated, Crystal Shield restored, and there's also a surprise message you have to play to find out. And then there was some sound effects that go along with those alerts. They're basically the same, a couple sounds. They were on the EEPROM. There was no additional sounds. They just weren't used in the production code that everybody's used to. So they were shared with Blaster, the game Blaster that Williams did. And the big one, the one that I wanted, and we originally went back and forth, was there's a pause mode. So I'll show you when we're doing gameplay. If you hit the player one start, it can pause the game. And then if you hit the player start again, it will come out of pause mode. And so what we had is two separate versions. I said, if someone wants this new code for in an arcade that's going to be on location, we really don't want that pause mode, because you could have some kid or somebody coming up, pausing the game, walking away, and then you're going to end up with potential screen burn or etching the monitor if it's just locked onto that image for 24, 48 hours until someone notices it, right? So we had two versions, and then after some more discussions, I'm like, hey, we've got that settings menu where you can set all your track message and free play and all that. I said, is there a way, do you think, to add in there pause mode enabled or disabled? So he was originally he's like, I don't think so, and then he worked on it, and was able to implement that. So now this version that you're going to see here, this 855 version we're calling it, is the latest version, and it supports the pause mode and all that. And you will see that 855 in the high score table, and that's how kind of we're tracking. That's how Eugene Jarvis and Larry DeMar did it on some of the other games that they developed, Robotron and that. So some of the default scores on the high score table indicate the version of the code that you're seeing running. So let me go ahead and coin this up. You should be getting audio as well.
I hunger.
And then I'll hit the start button here. You can see that jet plume there. Gets a little more intense as I push further. So you watch when I get hit now. He also hear that, and that little, it said Crystal Shield annihilated. So normally you get blown up the first time you're hit with one of those, and he modified where you basically get some shields there that allow you to sustain a few hits. So it really makes the gameplay more fun. So let me drop into the diagnostic mode here. To the settings screen. So we're still testing RAM, we're still testing ROM. There's the RAM and ROM test, no RAM errors. But then basically, normally you go through all the screen adjustments and all that kind of stuff. Now it just jumps to this. So if we go in here and look, all your normal things are here: difficulty, continuous fire, all that stuff is on. And then you'll see here it says pause. And then basically you can use your Cinnabomb and fire to toggle between yes and no. So you see I'm going to put it on yes, and then I'm going to hit advance and save that setting. And then I'm going to start another new game. And now I'm playing. When I hit the player one start here on the remote, you see it says pause, and it's of course using the same font, and it just looks superb. So it will sit here. So if your wife's asking you to take the garbage out, or you gotta use the restroom or get a new beer or whatever it is you're doing, for your home arcade or whatever, you can just hit pause, get the phone call, do whatever, come back 5, 10, 20 minutes later, and just hit the button again and resume right where you were at. So I'm just toggling it. So that's the pause mode. So anyway, this game has had, I think, probably at least 30 hours on the bench running. I got wrapped up with some other projects. So it's rock solid. I'm going to get this buttoned up for John, packaged. I put everything in pink anti-static bags, and we get it packed real nice. And typically, I ship everything, if it's over a pound, via UPS. I have really good luck with them. I use Pirate Ship to generate the labels in-house. I provide tracking as soon as I print the label up, and I don't take payment until everything's done and ready to go out the door. So appreciate you watching the video, and hopefully have another one here soon. I've got plenty of work in the queue right now. So again, thanks for watching, and we'll see everybody later.